Hello there and welcome to UPFront with me, Blessed Sogah. Well, tonight, JoyNews can confirm that no government intervention, at least in the last 10 years, has been able to make up for the level of loss to forest cover in Ghana. What I'm saying is because we're indicating that in spite of the numerous campaigns, especially the Green Ghana project, for instance, launched by the SY administration, targeted at planting more trees, we have a reverse data indicating to JoyNews research that the size of land 5 times bigger than the size of the Greater Accra region, for instance, remains deforested. So that's the magnitude of challenge we have as a country. But now there is a new initiative being launched by government, and President John Dramani Mahama announced that a couple of months ago, commencing the distribution of at least 20 million seedlings in a bid to reclaim what has been lost due to mainly human factors, especially illegal mining, as we know about it. But we're asking the question, what difference will the Tree of Life project make, especially when this initiative, estimated at distributing and planting some 20 million seedlings, would only make up for the forest cover lost in 2023 alone? That's the only difference it's making, and that's why many are asking the question, can this be sustained? Is the Tree for Life project indeed the lifesaver? And what more will the John Dramani Mahama administration do to reclaim our lost forest cover? That's what we are looking at tonight. Stay with me on UPFront as we talk to the relevant guests, authorities, and as we dissect the matter. So let's get into the graphics for you immediately, because this is very important. Now take a look at what's happening over the last 2-decade period for the country. 1.6 million hectares of trees have been lost in terms of our forest cover loss. And of course, if you're putting that into some imaginary figure, we're looking at some 5 times more the size of the Greater Accra region. That's the sheer size of land we've lost as a result of, the deforestation, illegal mining, if you want to call it as such. But look at the picture, right? Because the Western region tops all other regions in terms of the level of thousands of hectares that we're losing gradually as a result of, you can call it illegal mining or deforestation. Central region appears to be listed on the graph here, but it's not to say that that number that we have is not significant. And that's why we're giving you a further breakdown of where we've traversed as a country and where we are now in terms of what the president is promising. Take a look at this, because beyond this stretch that you have with the Western region leading, there are more issues that we need to break down. For instance, taking a look at 2023 alone, which is just 2 years ago, right? 110,000 hectares of natural forest is what we lost as a result of deforestation or human activities that are leading to our cover loss, right? Now, if you take a look at this number, I'm about to demonstrate to you why perhaps all of the initiatives, as we were saying, in the last 10 years have not yielded the desired results. Because in spite of the Green Initiative, for instance, launched by the SY administration over the course of the last 8 years, this is what we know, that only 7,936.6 hectares of land was reclaimed. So all of the trees that we've planted over the last 8 years, or 10 years, if you may want to call it, and stretch a bit beyond the Akufo-Addo administration, this country has not been able to replace what we have lost. And so 7,936,000 hectares is what we're talking about. But in terms of target, nominally speaking, the SY administration indeed exceeded all of the targets they had set for themselves dating back to 2021. So just take a look at it. 5 million was the target in 2021. It was exceeded by some 2 more points, raising the level to somewhere 7+ million trees. That was in 2021. The story in 2022 is almost the same. 20 million, we've exceeded it. 26.56 was the, of course, actual planting that was done. And same for the case in 2023, where, of course, a lot more was done in terms of the number of trees that we're planting. So all throughout the year until 2024, the initiatives, as we said, or described it, the Green Ghana initiative, indeed, yes, promoted the collective action for restoring degraded landscapes. It instilled tree planting values, and benefits for young people. Obviously, all of these boxes were checked, except to say that if you're putting the numbers together, we still have a lot more to do and to cover. So this goes beyond the Green Ghana Day agenda that was launched by President Akufo-Addo. Now, this is what you see next, because it's very instructive to our story. Take a look at this. 30 billion United States dollars at the tail end of the Akufo-Addo administration. What was what Ghana assessed from the UAE, for instance. We assessed that grant as part of the Green Climate Fund, and we're to meet the target, so we're able to draw down. But in spite of all of these initiatives, our claim and our research is indeed pointing out that clearly there is a need for a scaled-up intervention. And that's why we're focusing today on the Tree for Life initiative. Look at what the president says about this, that this initiative will see the establishment and maintenance of some 12,000 hectares of forest plantation, 4,000 hectares of enrichment of planting, and also reclamation of some 500 hectares of degraded mined out sites in forest reserves. This, of course, was the disclosure by the president, giving us a broad framework of what he intends to do going into the tree planting project, or Tree for Life, if you want to call it. And that's why, under the initiative of the ministry, such as the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology, of course, government is also initiating the One Child, One Tree initiative, encouraging every school child to plant and nurture a tree. And of course, the president's belief is that this will foster a culture of environmental stewardship amongst the youth. So we're about to head into that initiative, and that's why we're having this conversation. What difference will the Tree for Life initiative make? And if it will, how soon does the NDC administration intend to recover so much that we've lost over the last few years? That's what we're focusing on tonight for UPFront. And let me tell you about my guest helping us do the discussion, Elim Cotto. He's Deputy Chief Executive Officer for the Forestry Commission. Great to have you. And of course, I must say busy schedule, because you have a big task ahead of you tomorrow.
Thank you so much. Good evening to you and our viewers for having me. Thanks for having me. Yes, we have a very huge task, but you have a president who doesn't see anything bigger than him. So if you're an appointee, you ought to also be so audacious to achieve more. And I think we are being realistic with what we need to do, and Ghanaians have expectations of us.
We'll be getting into that shortly. Dr. Ferdinand Tone is with the University of the United Nations Institute for Natural Resources, and of course that's UNU INRA. He's joining us via Zoom. So along the line, of course, he'll be sharing his perspectives with us as well on this initiative and what more Ghana could be considering in terms of scaling up our efforts. Great to have you, Doc, with us as well. But let me start off with Elim, because Elim has, of course, foresight of what will happen tomorrow. The president has given that clear directive. The initiative has been launched. What is really your target for tomorrow?
Thank you once again. As you may be aware, in the month of March, on 21st, the president in the Ashanti region, in a town called Nkawie, actually launched the program. But he decided that having launched that program, there's a need for us to scale it up or ramp it up further. And what he's decided that we do is to dedicate a whole month to this exercise. I was listening to your analysis about the number of hectares that we've lost and the targets that have been met. And you see, for instance, the argument or the debate cannot be even about whether targets have been met or not. You agree with me that if you get onto the streets and we've planted 5 million trees and we can't even find a single one, when your target was 3, and yet you've planted 5 million and not been able to nurture a single one to grow, you've achieved 0. So the concern here should be how to make sure that we nurture these trees in order for them to grow, to provide the vegetation, the cover, and the solution that we seek to.
Elim, this is by far one of the best propositions I've seen from any political appointee. But it's bringing up the question of accountability and reflection. Have we, and I'm saying by extension, your organization done a cursory assessment of the Green Ghana initiative? Because at least that's where we left off.
The truth also of the matter is that I must say here emphatically, there's been a lot of rot in the past. so much rot that we feel that the people of Ghana saw most of these, and it is why they have entrusted us with the power to be the ones to now lead. And a lot of these, it's not as though we'll gloss over them, however, but we would want to start from a fresh note so that we will bring fresh ideas. That is why I'm giving you an example. That if you take the analysis you put on your tabloid, for instance, 2020, there was a target of 10 million. They hit 11 million or 12 million.
Yes.
The next year, there's a target of maybe there's some funds available that makes you meet that, and then you just be able to withdraw it. But is that the matter? Because if you meet your target and you don't look over these trees to grow, then you virtually have done cost 90.
What do we know? And what are you intending to say that perhaps
what we know is that there has not been, government in the past failed to own the project, but rather just made it a usual political gimmick of attaching mantras to, Green Ghana, do this, that. I mean, so
there's the possibility that if we go to the grounds now, perhaps if we're saying, oh, we planted 10 million trees in 2021 or 2023, we may not even find up to 10 million.
I doubt if you even find half. I mean, you can get onto the streets. I mean, even from First Light heading towards Sakaman, trees were planted in the middle of the road, all those places. Where are they? Nothing can be found. And you see, we must move beyond government and the institution of forestry taking up that mandate. We must let the people own the program. That is why the president is saying that even though I launched this on in Kawe, I want to declare the month of June the month of planting. Tree for Life initiative. So we are calling on corporate Ghana. It could be multimedia will decide that in the month of June, 15th will be the day that we shall go with our team, maybe split into two. One may do it in Eastern, one may do it in Western, or all our correspondents should do it across the country. So when the president does what he's expected to do tomorrow, we're now calling on corporate Ghana. In fact, we want to refer to the entire country as corporate Ghana, including the schools, every institution that matters, communities, traditional authorities, and every stakeholder that cares about our environment, that we may not be feeling immediately the impact of these things. When you say to people, it's just like when we talk of the number of people who get HIV daily and all that, they're like, oh, those are just statistics to scare you. But when we look at some of these things also, the future implications are very dire. And as we speak now on your program, it is just like talking about, I know we'll definitely delve into that, Galamsey. It has destroyed our water bodies. It has destroyed aquatic life. It's compromising the quality of our food crops and many other things. So if we do not begin to tackle this matter also now, and don't forget that our forest vegetation is what provides us the clean water that we actually must drink. So if we are not concerned about these things, tomorrow the consequences may be dire. It may not be you and myself sitting here, but our generations. And the questions will be, what did our forebears do? Then that will be an indictment on us. But I think the opportunity is there for us to make sure that we put in place the right things. I recall when I was in school, and kudos to my proprietor, Mr. Sam Neku of Wisdom International School in Agbozume. I still recall very well, I planted a tree as number 3, 7, and 31. And so each time I go to my school, that was way back in...
And you still find them?
Yes, and I'm proud to say that when I went there, I still found the trees there just by counting. And I felt so proud, because this was as far back as stage 5 or GSS 1 or so. And every child planted a tree. And we nurtured it till we finished school. Then at least if it grows to a certain stage, you now know that it is safe and can just blossom on its own. So there's the need
so that's
for
a private initiative, no government funding, and yet there is accountability. What have you done about the Green Ghana Day? Of course, knowing that, as you're describing it, there may be some rot somewhere.
There could be some rot, and this is why not that there could be, there definitely were some rots. And if you ask me, this platform is for us to look ahead of what needs to be done rather than wanting to gloss over the ills.
Yeah, but we committed government resources. We committed a lot of time and energy.
That is why I asked you a simple question, not even a question. I put up an analysis that even if you claim you have met the target, or what's the word to use? They went beyond the target. How many trees, however, can you trace to? So if there was a target of 10 million trees and they have planted 12 million, can you even find 2 million trees? So what is the purpose of the target then? That alone should tell you. There has not been any consistent plan in order to make sure that we Ghanaians own it. So government took it upon itself to be the very one doing everything here and there. We saw the fanfare and all of that. Yeah. That is why President Mahama is not saying that I'll plant a tree here today, tomorrow we'll go there. He is doing what he needs to be done just tomorrow.
I'm interested in your blueprint and what you are likely to do starting tomorrow.
Yeah.
But we've been taking a look at the figures as well from the newsroom perspective, even upon coming into the studio.
Yes.
And that's why we're making that instructive comment that no government intervention, at least in the last 10 years, we can even go beyond the last 10 years to say that no government intervention in terms of reforestation has brought back our forests to life. Because looking at the sheer numbers we've destroyed, we still have a lot more to do. So your targets will make a difference. When
you are targeting
Tree for Life, what difference is it going to make?
It will make an impact. Even if it's a scratch, it will make an impact. And you see, one thing I trust President Mahama for is the audacity to always take on the biggest challenge. He may not be the single person to solve the entire problem, but if he starts it on the good note, it leaves a good footprint for others to also feel challenged to want to take over or continue from there. And it is the reason why he's ready to take up any challenge, whatever it be. When you talk about the 12,000 hectares that is the target,
hectares,
one will say, we're talking about 1.6 million. What is 12,000 of that? It is still a certain minute component of the bigger perspective. It is the reason why we have decided that the market woman, the child in the school, the accountant in your company, the guy on the street, we should find a way to convince all of them to feel concerned and be involved. And this is coming to you at no cost. All you need to do is get to a district office, a regional office, get a seedling, and go and plant them. Don't forget that
How many have you distributed across the country, actually?
The aim is to plant 30 million over the month.
Right.
So that is what we have made provision for. And if we are able to even go beyond that, fine. But that is the second major concern, is for us to be able to let people own the trees or own the exercise. So you feel that, oh, this is a tree I planted. That's why I gave you an example. Right. I planted this tree. I must nurture it to grow. At least I will feel proud that anytime I'm even passing by, I planted this tree. We're trying to, it is not going to be an easy task. For instance, whilst the president and my CEO, Dr. Hugh Brown, will be, probably with the minister, Honorable Emmanuel Kofi Amabua, will be having theirs at, in Accra. Right. I will be heading to the Western region to join Car Power to do the same thing.
Because that's where we have the highest level of degradation taking.
Exactly. Right. Other officers will be doing that as well too. But it then brings to mind some of the concerns. Why these deforestations? Because there's been a lot of illegal logging. Right. There's been the galamsey, which we cannot run away from. Then one again asks, that is not the only solution to the problem. Right. I have come to realize that enforcement alone will not be the solution to the entire problem. For instance, if we take the 7 major forest zones in Ghana, we must find ways to involve our traditional authorities. They play a very major role when it comes to their traditional setup. If the chiefs, the traditional authorities, opinion leaders are called on board and they buy into the ideas of the solutions of government, the problem is half solved. Now, imagine, for instance, that in the same 7 major regions where the depletion is highest, we begin to introduce forest clubs in those regions. Just as we have Red Cross, Boys Scout, and all various extracurricular activity programs in the schools, we have forest clubs. We have also forest festivals. When we have forest clubs, what it means is that our younger brothers and sisters from the basics, and don't forget, that is where we can imbibe the best of habits in them. So when they all learn the habit of conservation, sustenance, and preserving the forest, they go home and even educate their parents who are not educated. When they know of their relatives who are engaged in activities that degrade the forest, they may not have a strong voice, but they will say it, they may say it in a way, and 1 or 2 parents may also be affected. If we have forest festivals, for instance, these same kids can have vacation programs, like some travel all the way, go on summer to abroad, etc. If we're having that good, and most importantly, you sitting here, Blessed, if we engage the media, it cannot be a directive, but it can be an appeal. The Forestry Commission and government is asking the media that each day, not each week, each day, can you spare us 15 minutes of your time? 5 minutes in the morning, 5 in the afternoon, 5 in the evening, all aimed at just talking about deforestation and
the need for us to plant more.
The need for us to take up action.
But causative factors cannot be glossed over.
No.
That's why I want to bring in Dr. Tonye, because you've also been listening. And of course, you at UNU INRA has been leading an initiative, of course, in the Eastern region where you feel illegal mining is endemic. And of course, you've been working with the chiefs there. Of course, chiefs, as we know it, as Elim is telling us, they'll be key in this Tree for Life project. So going forward, how do you feel this project ought to be more targeted in achieving the desired results?
Thank you very much. And then good evening to all who are watching. I have been listening to the CEO speak, and this looks very great an initiative. And tree planting is one of the surest way you can ever think of getting your degraded forest back. However, we will need to coordinate this very well. What I mean by coordinating this, there are a lot of components I've been listening to the CEO speak about, talking about involving the schools. And then I ask myself the question, if the schools are involved, how large are our compounds in the various cities? How is the involvement of the district assembly in terms of city planning? Are we planting trees anywhere we find soil? I like the awareness creation part of it.
Yeah.
Must be targeted at how this is done. What trees work for a particular area must be considered. We must also be looking at how do we get students and even individuals to be interested in planting trees. And that is why I think the aspect of it that is looking at some tree crops that are beneficial, like food crops, will motivate somebody to plant it. And whilst we do the awareness creation, people could be naive about how trees grow and how they need to even provide some form of support in terms of nutrient when they are struggling in the dry season, when water issues are big in some part of the countries. How do we get these trees to survive so that they don't die? And another year we are looking for the trees and we can't find it. Those are very important things. I think I don't know the details of how this plan is being carried out, but I know we should be thinking about those things deeply.
Yeah, I'm interested. Yeah, I'm interested in the Eastern region story because you've been working in some of the forest reserves. While we speak, of course, there's no doubt that degradation is still taking place. What nuanced modes is it taking, and how would you want, a coordinated response to that? Because we don't want to be planting more and losing more.
Sure. If I want to talk about what we have been doing in the Eastern region, in the Chimai area, you realize we have adopted an approach that is even developed by Forestry Commission is the custodian. That is the CREMA approach, where we're getting the community to have a local governance system that is handed over to them through the power of the Ministry of Natural Resources to be able to manage their own resources at that level, where they feel like they are part of the process, where they will not only be planting, they will also be looking out for illegal miners who are going to destroy the forest again. They are protecting their water bodies. And I think that approach, that model by government is one of the nicest model we have identified as researchers, and which is not in other African countries we have been working, and it's in Ghana. We need to look at that model and see how it also complements this tree planting. So also involving, trying to have enterprise around these tree seedlings that will encourage people to be able to get the love to produce seedlings. They know they will benefit from it so that they can nurture it. If there's a planting, there should be a nurturing. Else we will come back to the old story where we can't find the trees.
What more is your research revealing as to the gaps in policy and what we need to address? Because Elim is here, obviously you'll be taking the feedback then.
Yeah, so I would want to say Ghana is within the sub-region have a lot of very good frameworks and policies. I think we would also continue to hammer on the issue of how this is implemented. And then for us, I like this approach of the current initiative where it's for the individual to own the process. Owning the process means you need to give them power. And giving them power means you need to let them feel like, look, they are the custodians of these trees. And for me, they should revisit their CRIMA approach and then empower the community. They can even get the CRIMA executives or the structure to be in charge of this and drive this, and this will be a great success.
I see. Let's come back in studio, and of course, from the point you're just leaving us off, it reminds me of my experience in Nairobi, for instance, of course, where they carried out a similar exercise. In fact, relatively, they are excellent at this as compared to us. They made us plant trees, and there's geotagging as well. Are we doing that in this exercise? If you're saying people must own it?
I think these are all possibilities we can look at in order to enrich the process. It is the reason why I am also very particular. I mean, Doctor made reference to how children engage and all that. Yeah. You see, when we engage people, and it's not only children, I only gave you an example. I told you the whole of Ghana. If the chiefs, the traditional authorities, even the conglomerates that are operating in Ghana, the Newmont, now Zijin, Anglo Gold, and all the bigger enterprises. There may be a company situated even in Accra here, but they know themselves that in one way or the other, they benefit from what is happening in the forest. And even if not at all, so long as they are working not with robots, and therefore will require human resource, the gentleman who is supposed to become your next top manager probably will be coming from there. And so I am happy that we are still open to other avenues that we can use in order to improve. Yes. So that to make sure that we do not only go and plant trees, then we go back to sleep.
But that's the point. So how do you know, for instance, and based on what will start in the coming days, that, okay, I'm planting my tree here, I want to find it in the next 5 months at least, not even in a year.
You will agree with me if you take the like of Ashanti region, for instance, where it used to be referred to as the Garden City. What happened? Because people were building, and today it's become fashion that when you build, you even tile the entire compound. When actually that is also contributing to flooding, amongst other things. So serious education or awareness needs to be created. But we are making the people own the program.
Yeah, but
as they own
accountability should be part of it.
Yes,
are you ensuring? Clearly, there's no plan for you in terms of how you want to tackle it.
There are plans. I mean, let me give an example of Honorable my brother Elim Cotto. Right. Elim Cotto has written to the Forestry Commission to request for 5 million seedlings. And he wants to make sure that he does that
for just this area alone.
For his area alone. That is a member of parliament taking up that. One would say that Ketu North, Georgia, and those places should not be
worried about
it. But this is an initiative he's taken, and that again becomes a challenge to the others. I am aware of Dr. Grace Ayensu, who also called to demand same, and many other members of parliament who have also called to demand same, because they feel it is in one way involving the people. They may even put up some kind of reward scheme, not necessarily monetary, but to say that in the matter of the next 1 year or 2 years, we will try to check everybody's tree that they have planted. When we planted in Nkawie, I had to always be getting back to find out what the state of the ones that the president planted was, what my CEO planted.
I was going to ask you about the president
and what mine planted as well.
Is it growing?
They are growing.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm telling you.
So if I go back there, I'll see President John Mahama's tree.
And I recall 3 days ago, I think 5 or 6 days ago, I just inadvertently drove through the
and that's the president of the school, by the way.
Through the Achimota Forest.
That's the event you're talking about, right?
I drove through the Achimota Forest, and then I am aware that there were times the late President Rawlings also came to plant trees and all that. Right. But we are now moving away from that. So we need to do this. And mind you, imagine, for instance, that we get to the eastern region, and we have Honorable Julius Debra, who joins a team to also go and plant trees in the eastern region where he comes from. Then the following day, we have General Johnson Asiedu Nketia also move with some people to the streets or to some areas earmarked for the planting exercise. It could be for plantation. And don't forget, we have both, we have fruit trees, we have the ornamental ones, amongst other things. We would want to also encourage, for instance, Department of Parks and Gardens to also see how they can also play a major role to ensure that our streets and our communities are also lit with trees. So it is not it's not going to be a one-day event. It has to continue. I even feel that the president asking that we do it for the whole of June does not mean it should end in June. It is only to sustain that, so that when we cultivate that habit, what it means is that Forestry Commission has must always make the seedlings available and consistently make announcements for people to walk in.
And I'm about to go into that controversial aspect.
Yes.
Last year we heard about government owing some of the seedling or the crop growers You haven't paid them off. How are they going to give you more seedlings then?
I am aware of that. I recall our sector minister, who is very passionate about things related to our sector in particular, was not happy knowing of this. And we were told also that at a point in time, what transpired was that instead of that disbursement coming from the Forestry Commission, it was rather coming from the Finance Ministry. And you and I know we can keep going in a merry-go-round. But I trust the leadership of Honorable Dr. Kesel Atoforson to find a way out for us to be able to make them rest assured that what we are doing, it's a new page and ways of resolving the previous concerns.
So you're borrowing seedlings?
Not entirely.
You're not paying for it?
Not entirely. That was what was done in the past, but it does not mean that currently we are doing that.
So you take the seedlings, you pay them this time?
We'll pay them. And that is why it is a problem.
But you haven't paid them?
No,
actually.
The exact details, the finance people will be the best to actually answer to them. But I am very much aware and I'm very cocksure that payments will be done for all this exercise that is ongoing. I am aware of some contracts that have been awarded as well in that regard.
And to be honest, are you overwhelmed by perhaps the share numbers that you're dealing with? 30 million is quite a lot. Do you need support from other agencies? Is it the case that you're open for donation funding, people, just walk in and say they want to support
The Forestry Commission is very open to that. Maybe at the right time within this period, we may be coming on your platform again to seek the support of corporate Ghana in terms of doing this. Maybe an institution may say, I want to pay for 5,000 seedlings, I want to pay for 10,000 seedlings. It is to grow Mother Ghana, and we'll be gladly happy to have that, because the task is not an easy one. And you see, we need to get the involvement or the buy-in of everybody. And once they all buy in into this program, it means that it no longer even becomes a Forestry Commission program. It becomes a habit of everybody. And that is why the media also plays a major role, as I said. If the media can even give us 15 minutes each day, 5 minutes in the morning, afternoon, 5 minutes in the evening, just to continue talking. So there's material we churn out that is given to the media to propagate the need for afforestation for us. I am sure that we'll be able to achieve all
while we do all of this, then we hear of Galamsey. It's clear that obviously, we will not be encouraged to support the initiative.
First and foremost,
because we plant more trees and some group of people go in there and just dig in.
First and foremost, let me congratulate one of your own, Erastus Saridonko. I think one cannot take out the shine from him for the stellar work he's been doing so far. And sometimes one wonders how he does it. And it is the reason I recall, for instance, when I had my appointment, he was one of the first people I reached out to. I told him that, bro, I think that if you have some information sometimes, let me know and see how we can go about it. And he's doing a stellar job. Now, when it comes to the menace of Galamsey, it is the more reason why we need to tackle it from the very base. Enforcement is number one. The involvement of our traditional authorities is number two. As I told you, if the chiefs, etc., buy into the solutions, the problem is half solved. Then the forms of education, which goes beyond the four walls of brick and mortar. Because the gentleman, we've seen some videos of some of the guys rushing there saying, Mioska, I have enough money, I'll buy another machine and all of that. It's because everybody even now wants quick money. But let's not also forget it is because of the teeming unemployment, the heightened unemployment in the country. So we must find alternative livelihoods. Many also ask the question, somebody who is making 100,000 or so a week, you are telling him to now go in for 500 cedis a month. Yes, we understand. It is the reason why we, however, must combine both the short, medium, and long-term approaches in resolving this matter. While we are trying to imbibe into our younger generations in primary schools, whether it is poems, rhymes, etc., related to conserving the forest, through forest clubs, we must also have the media's involvement. We must have forest festivals. We must also engage in enforcement to make sure that people who engage in activities that deplete the forest are given punitive measures. I know many also, again, let me raise this before you put it to me, raise the concern. Here you are, and you are rather allowing the foreigner to go whilst you are punishing the locals. Well, I look at it the other way. If you are a local and you are aiding the foreigner to destroy your motherland, you are even being told that when arrested, that foreigner will be let loose and you will be in trouble. Don't you think that will be a deterrent enough for you to think, look, then let me not even do this? Because if I bring the Chinaman, if I bring the Chinese to come and mine and we are arrested, he has repatriated the funds through whichever means. He is being sent away. He will go and enjoy it. Now you are being prosecuted. So why don't you stop such engagement?
Whichever way, crime is crime against the Republic.
A crime is being committed anyways, yes.
You're not cracking down on, you're picking and choosing.
You agree with me that this regime has been one that has deliberately been frontal in cracking down on the...
Yeah, but you're cracking down on your own people, leaving out the
It's
others.
not only on our people. I mean, I was at Summer Boy, where we carried out the exercise, and we found a lot of excavators, and I'm sure more is ongoing. Again, I must commend the military, Dr. Amani Boama. I must commend the National Security and also the IGP for the collaborative effort with the Forestry Commission, because don't forget, the Forestry Commission is not a weaponized institution. So even though many people look at it, and even you, not deliberately, unconsciously, everybody sees it as a Forestry Commission.
But you have rangers in the forest, actually.
Yes, we have, but we don't even have the resource to have the exact numbers. And that is also, again, a financial constraint. We have very limited. If I tell you the figures, I mean, you would ask that President Mahama should give full, and he's given his best to the Forestry Commission already. But because we are not a weaponized institution, we can only call on state agencies that are security conscious to realize that one thing I have been saying is that if we don't fight this battle carefully, the greater danger is that the extremists will now feel that Ghana is a porous ground for them to move in. When they move in deep somewhere and you and I cannot know, they will be mining or extracting our minerals and using the proceeds from that to fund their activity. Then there's greater danger.
I see. There's one issue I'll pick your thoughts on shortly, which is about the LI. Let's prepare for that. But Dr. Tonye, the wind is out of the sail, isn't it? Of course, Elikem, as you know, would have prepared so much for this. But yeah, back to the issue about alternative livelihoods. You've experienced that. You've interacted with persons in those communities. The point is, why should I still go into the forest, perhaps plant more trees when Galamsey can bring me so much dollars?
Yes, so that is a very big question that we should be tackling. What motivates someone to plant a tree and even make enough time to nurture it? If there's no incentive, the person is not going to do that. Education can go, but there will be challenging situations where the trees may be left to die on their own. That is why I continue to stress the point that, look, we need to target economic trees that can bring value. If someone knows that I'm planting a mango tree and I'll get mango from it at the end of the day, the person will be motivated.
Yeah, but that will take years. Apologies for saying that and being the devil's advocate. But that will take years to just get some mangoes. This is the gold bar we're talking about here.
Yes, it does. That is why I also want to encourage the government on the various initiatives in terms of trying to bring off the illegal miners to get something to be doing. We must measure what they get from the illegal mining against what we are giving them. Else they can't just leave it. They would go back to illegality.
By that, what are you suggesting? That we perhaps give more money, or the intervention should come with more cash?
If you employ someone, we've been working in the Ochiman area in about 8 communities. You speak to illegal miners, and the person goes to for even if he's hired by somebody, he goes and come back, and a day he's paid 200 cedis. Multiply that by about 22 days.
Yeah.
And then match that against maybe employing the person to be a forest guard or to be doing planting seedlings, and then multiply that by it. There should be an education to why, and then enforcement of the law. And then we must think about sustainable livelihood. You introduce mushroom farming. Is the market there? Are they giving some support to start? And then let me mention this point before we forget about it. If we are talking about reclaiming illegal mining sites or even degraded lands, let's not forget that you can reclaim and plant food crops there. The environmental, the health implication is it's a big one. We need to look at that. Is why the science must be applied. What trees can we plant to rebring the soil back, to reclaim and then take out all these toxic chemicals that have leached into the ground? We must know which tree goes to where. if it's in the city, what trees should be planted in the city? Which trees should be planted in the reclaimed Galamsey site? Not to tell so that we don't get our communities planting food crops on Galamsey land, and then they get also poisoned. So, and then you also mentioned, how do we monitor this? GIS technology must be employed. What is our baseline? We are starting this year. What is the community? How does the community look like in terms of land cover, the tree covers? Then we continue to monitor and see whether the dynamics is changing in terms of vegetation cover. So the science must also be employed. You mentioned that about what you know about Kenya and things like that. So it's a lot of things we need to combine, and then let's be deliberate. Let's not just plant trees at any place. Don't forget University of Ghana, when it rains, trees are falling on cars. When we plant trees and then we don't manage this with spatial planning, then you plant the tree and then the next 2 years, 3 years, you are cutting it down to raise a building there. You've lost.
Yeah.
So if it planned very well, we know where tree is.
And because you have an overview, the question as to which regions or areas should have more trees planted, where do you feel that the focus should be? Because as we speak now, illegal mining is endemic, yes, in the eastern region, in parts of the western and Ashanti region, but where should the focus lie the more?
So this is in two folds. Where forests have been degraded, we must replace them with trees. So a lot of Galamsey regions, I won't go into mentioning the regions. We must just replace those forests. Then when you talk about tree planting across the country or trying to green our environment, we can't forget about the three northern regions. These are very important areas.
Also, we shouldn't just be thinking about places destroyed by illegal mining.
Yes. Yes. They also need a microclimate that they can also enjoy some good temperatures and stuff like that. So they need to also not forget those regions, because they are hit by the climate change, mostly because of the harsh weather there. So we must also have an approach to tackling those regions, even though there's no Galamsey. So as I mentioned, let's tackle forests that have been brought down. Let's go to reclaim and plant, but let's also look at regions that are affected most by climate change in terms of even their food production, in terms of their micro climate where there's heat, and they need some trees to also be able to mitigate some of these challenges of climate change.
Wow. Alikem, a great point about what type of tree crops we're planting and where they're being planted, because that's very instructive, right? You don't want to go planting elsewhere or in some region where, of course, you know that illegal mining is endemic.
I commend Ferdinand for that, and I think he should rest assured that the fact that Forestry Commission is involved should tell you that we will not be putting square pegs in round holes.
Yes.
And therefore, we'll make sure that places in environments, communities where they need fruit trees, it's fruit trees that will be planted. We won't go and be planting a tick in somebody's house. Not at all. So that is going to be
taken care of.
The bigger one
But who's responsible for the distribution, by the way?
No, the distribution is done at every district.
Because if I walk to the district and all they give me is a tree.
No, so when you go, you are not just going to just pick a tree.
Yeah.
They ask first where you want to plant your tree. Is it on your farm? There are people who even want to plant it on their farms. Maybe so that could be a mango or whichever fruit. Some even want it in their compound, or somebody even wants to plant it just by the street. And so you will not just go and be handed over.
So you can you can walk in.
You can walk in
and ask
then ask for.
If you're not giving one, what then happens?
It will be so surprising that you will not be given. The only reason under which you may not be given is that maybe what you are asking for is not available. But there's nothing that you ask for. We have a lot of species. I can go through a lot that you cannot. And you see, the bigger picture is for us to make sure when Ghanaians buy into this, it becomes a responsibility act where everybody is even expecting that multimedia. Next week or next year, you've been doing some annual programs. I think, is it a football competition? Will you add the tree planting also to your program? a sister station, will you also do that? And so when we are beginning to do this, imagine the conglomerates. I'm talking about the big mining companies, the oil companies, and all the bigger companies that we know of, all begin to find a way, because we know there's a common terminology. They say corporate CSR, corporate social responsibility. If we are able to market this well enough, and the president is doing that assiduously, I am sure that it is convincing enough for many to also feel that, hey, if the president is towing this line, we also think that we should let him know that.
Since you're talking about the CSOs, I mean, sorry, the multinational and the bigger firms, some of them actually are operating in our forest reserves. It's been a very raging controversy. CSO is mounting pressure on government to completely take away the LI that permits mining in forest reserves. The government hasn't come up to say, we're doing that, and how soon we're doing that.
The fuller detail of these may lie in some other thing that some do not understand. For instance, some of these companies are trying to make carbon credits to make up for the emissions or their activities. I know of Tallow doing same, and the mining companies also as well. But many other companies that are looking to do that. As for the LI and the legislation, I am sorry where I say it, it's Forestry Commission. I pray that the legislative
Your men are being attacked by miners in the forest reserve. So I mean, if it's fair to say and to just push the responsibility to the ministry.
It is the reason
but you have the first-hand experience to say, well, our men are being attacked in the forest reserves,
I think,
and so the law must go. Let's revoke mining in the forest reserve. You've been dead silent on that as a government.
I don't think so. I think when I took office in the first or second month or so, I recall there was an incident where a gentleman called Suleiman was, his kneecap was almost decapitated. And I visited him even on behalf of my chief executive, Dr. Brown, in Kumasi, in Ashanti region. And when I saw it, I had a different opinion on some of these things. And in fact, let me stay here. For instance, when we decide also to cut or move excavators from wherever we find them to a safer location, the cost involved alone is not an easy. It's no joke at all. However, these are things we are looking at, because the moment you sight them, you spot them and run to them, they immobilize the machinery.
The simple point is, just take away the law. What would it take this government to take away the law?
I think that, I'm not sure that government has ruled it out entirely, is it? Because I believe that the legislature...
Is it because perhaps there's so much money in the mining that, of course, government is looking at revenue?
Not only that, but I mean, government even deserves credit that with the formation of the gold board now, there has been some appreciative streamlining of activities of these people through the introduction of the gold board. And that alone streamlines activities in a way that protects direct question. But the LI... that is what I'm saying, that the LI... That is a decision to be taken by the legislature. And where I sit as Forestry Commission, I may tell you that if that is taken out, it will be to our advantage.
The Chinese people are still in our forests, isn't it?
So it will be to my advantage as a deputy CEO.
This is the direct question to you. The Chinese guys are still in our forest reserves, isn't it?
Yes.
The foreigners are still there. They're there. So why not just pass the law, take down the law, and then we go after these individuals?
But you see, even when we go after them, what are we doing? We are going after them in order to solve a problem. And are we doing that currently or not? I mean, the LI being repealed or being taken out is not stopping us currently from even engaging in activities of making sure we clamp down on them. You and others may only believe that taking it out completely will now give it a full force or a full
but what else is there?
To be able,
what else is there?
I feel, like I am saying, if we intend to really solve this problem, whether we repeal or what's the other word they use? Revoke the LI. Once there are concrete steps being taken to make sure that we nip this in the bud, and mind you, it's been 8 years that they devastated our land. So if we are doing this now on daily basis or on weekly basis, we are arresting these people, these foreign nationals, etc. For me, that is my focus now. I will leave the other to the legislature, and I pray that there's so much convincing going on there.
Politicking, as some would say.
I pray that there's convenience. There's a
convenience politicking. That's what you're doing, isn't it? You're picking and choosing which one suits you.
No, I'm not picking and choosing.
Because clearly, you promised that you were going to deal with mining activities in the forest.
Okay, so I just admitted two things.
That was a clear promise by the president.
I just admitted two things to you. For instance, when we talked of, the president has given the directive that no excavators should be burnt.
Right.
In the Forestry Commission Act itself also, and the various working instrument, it tells that you can dispose of such equipment. As to how you define disposal, it's another terminology or another definition that should be described later. Now, when we even arrest foreigners, it is our duty to collaborate with the security service to arrest them. Right. The prosecution is not mine. So some way, somehow, you would agree that I am limited by scope of my jurisdiction on what I can do. I can arrest the foreigner together with the needed the officers or authority. But what goes on next is supposed to be beyond you. It's beyond.
Okay. And will this aid you? Because the Catholics Bishops Conference, they've also waded into the issue. Their point is, let's cordon off some areas, some forest reserves, and declare them as security zones.
In fact, all 288 forest reserves are supposed to be security zones.
But by law, they are not, is it?
So what we need to do, that is why I was happy when you asked if we are open to corporate Ghana supporting, helping, and all of that. The Forestry Commission is also, it's parasiting on whatever subventions government will bring in, apart from some few things we do. Again, let me commend the sector minister who has challenged us to try and make the institution profitable. It challenges us to make sure we do things and streamline activities so we can be able to be self-sufficient. Now, there's the need. I thank the Catholic bishops also. I just hope that their call has not been too late, because these things, we needed all to be talking about these strongly long ago, but better late than never. And there's the need for us to all make sure that we cordon off these places. That is why our forest guards and rangers are deployed to those places, but they are inadequately not enough.
So do you plan to increase the rangers then?
We need to increase that. That will
Are you increasing that soon?
We will be increasing that. That will mean that since I am also here, I pray that the finance minister is also watching, and it means that we'll be knocking on his doors to say that
I see you need
we need
a
support.
lot more money.
We need a lot of money for these activities. And it is a clarion call. I want to use this and make a clarion call to the Ghanaian watching and listening that don't see it as Forestry Commission's forest. Don't see it as Ghana's forest. It is yours as well too, and that is why we want to be involved.
I'll give the very final minutes to you, Dr. Tonye. But of course, Elim, if there's any illegal miner watching us now, and some of them have gone onto social media to dare your organization or agency that no matter what you do, we'll be back in the forest, what would you tell them, briefly?
That is one of the many sad situations we find ourselves in, and it is as a result of illiteracy or not being aware of the level of destruction. Like I told you, when they are doing these things on the water bodies, close to the water bodies, they are depleting the forest, they are destroying aquatic body, they are polluting the water body, compromising the soil, which also compromises the crops, the yields, and all of that. Many do not look at it this way. We must intensify education.
I see.
And that we can only achieve if we involve the chiefs and we involve the media in order to make sure that our message reaches them always and constantly.
Coming after them.
For them to know that we will come for them as well. The first thing I made mention of is the enforcement.
I see. Dr. Tonye, wrap us up by looking forward into the future and perhaps what more you'd want to see with regard to illegal mining specifically as wrap up.
All right. So I think the fight against illegal mining should be a shared responsibility. Communities must be involved. Traditional leaders must be involved. Religious bodies must be involved, because we all share these resources in the environment. What I want to say is that the enforcement of our laws must be stringent enough to be able to punish those who still jump boundaries and still do this. To add on the issue of the planting of trees, we need a coordinated approach. We need a focus into the future. How does this tree planting exercise look like? How is our environment going to look like in the next 5 years or in the next 2 years? There should be a clear monitoring system to know the progress we are making. Else we would be coming back to a square zero and still be talking about the numbers we want to add. So the government is a good initiative. We encourage that this is done. We are all involved. The awareness must be created very well. And then please, let's use the local governance system as created by even the Act of Parliament on the issue around community resource management area called CREMA. It is a system that involves the chiefs, the queens, the young people, and then also involve all the government agencies that are in charge. Let's deploy that strategy.
Yeah. Elim, you wanted to make some points. 30 seconds. We have to go.
I think what he made mention of the CRIMA and the Tonja system.
Briefly, we need to go.
These are all things the Forestry Commission does. We maybe need to intensify.
Right.
We will only continue to appeal to the Ghanaian watching, listening to us, to join that. His Excellency President Mahama, the sector minister, the Forestry Commission as well, has not spared any chance at all to make sure we get this thing done.
Indeed. Grateful to you, gentlemen. Dr. Ferdinand Tonye from UNU INRA is a research fellow there. Thank you for your time. And also to you, Elim Cotto, Deputy CEO for the Forestry Commission. This has been Upfront with me, Blessed Sogah. There's more on myjoyonline.com when you log on for more stories. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. See you then.